The last day of school at MB High was supposed to be a celebration, but something felt wrong from the moment I walked into homeroom. Everyone was signing yearbooks, laughing about summer plans, but I noticed something odd about the signatures in mine. Next to Sarah's photo, someone had written, "Sorry about what happened," in red ink. The strange thing was, Sarah was sitting right across from me, very much alive and well. I flipped through more pages and found similar messages. "We'll miss you, Tommy," was scrawled next to Thomas's picture, though Tommy was literally signing someone else's yearbook 3 desks away. "Gone too soon" appeared next to Ashley's photo, but Ashley was planning her beach trip for next week. By lunch, I'd counted 17 of these messages, all written in the same red ink, all referring to my classmates as if they were already dead. The handwriting looked familiar, but I couldn't place it. When I showed my friends, they insisted the pages were blank except for normal signatures. The final bell rang at 2:47 p.m. As students poured out of the building, I stayed behind in the library, comparing the yearbook signatures to old school records. That's when I found it, a class roster from 1987, the year a bus accident killed 18 MB students on their last day of school. Every name that had received a memorial signature in my yearbook matched the names on that tragic roster. But here's what made my blood freeze. The handwriting in my yearbook was identical to the signatures on a get-well card from 1987, signed by all the students who had died in the crash. They were still here, still attending their last day of school, year after year, signing yearbooks and saying goodbye to classmates who would never graduate. I looked up to see the library clock had stopped at 2:47 p.m. Outside, school buses were pulling away, but through the windows, I could see students who weren't quite solid anymore, waving goodbye with transparent hands. My yearbook fell open to the faculty page, where a new message had appeared in red ink: "Thanks for remembering us. See you next year." The library doors wouldn't open. The clock remained frozen. And I realized with growing horror that I might be joining those 18 students, trapped forever in an endless last day of school, signing yearbooks for the living who could never see us. The art room at Creekside Middle School was Maya's sanctuary. While other kids struggled with algebra or stumbled through PE, Maya found peace in the smell of paint and the scratch of charcoal on paper. She was gifted, everyone said so. Even Mr. Vance, the art teacher, called her work hauntingly realistic. He had no idea how right he was. It started with the self-portrait assignment. Maya sat in front of the mirror, sketching her reflection with careful strokes. But as she drew, something strange happened. Her pencil began moving on its own, adding shadows that weren't there, deepening lines that made her face look gaunt and hollow. When she finished, the portrait didn't look like her at all. It looked like her, but wrong. Starved. Desperate. The eyes in the drawing seemed to follow her around the room, and Maya could swear she saw the lips move slightly, as if trying to speak. "Extraordinary work," Mr. Vance said, examining the portrait. "It's like you've captured something beyond the physical. Something deeper." That night, Maya woke up exhausted, as if she hadn't slept at all. Her mother commented on how pale she looked, how thin her cheeks appeared. When Maya looked in the bathroom mirror, she gasped. She looked exactly like the portrait, hollow, hungry, haunted. But it was just her imagination, wasn't it? The next assignment was to paint someone important to you. Maya chose her best friend, Zoe. As she painted, the same thing happened. Her brush moved with a will of its own, adding dark circles under Zoe's eyes, making her smile sharp and predatory. When she finished, Zoe was standing behind her, looking at the painting. "That's not me," Zoe whispered, her voice trembling. "That's not what I look like." But it was. Maya could see it now, the way Zoe's skin had grown pale, the way her eyes had sunken back into her skull. When had her best friend become so thin, so fragile looking? "I think you should see the nurse," Maya suggested, but Zoe was already walking away, moving with the same jerky, unnatural gait as the figure in the painting. That weekend, Zoe didn't answer her phone. Her parents said she was sick, too weak to come to the phone. Maya rode her bike to Zoe's house and peeked through the window. What she saw made her stomach lurch. Zoe lay in bed, but she was wrong. Too thin, too still. Her skin was gray, and her eyes had rolled back, showing only white. She looked exactly like the painting, like something drained of life, of essence, of humanity. Maya ran back to school, to the art room. She had to understand what was happening. She found her self-portrait hanging on the wall, and her blood turned to ice water. The drawing was moving. The lips were definitely moving now, and she could hear whispers coming from the paper, pleas for help, for food, for life. That's when she saw the other paintings. Dozens of them, covering the walls. Students from years past, all looking hollow and wrong. And at the bottom of each one, a small brass nameplate with a date. All the dates were from the year the students had gone missing. Magnificent, isn't it? Mr. Vance's voice came from behind her. Maya spun around to see her teacher standing in the doorway, but he looked different. Younger. His gray hair had returned to brown, his wrinkled face was smooth, his bent back was straight. "You have such a gift, Maya," he continued, stepping into the room. "You see through to the soul, and you can trap it on canvas. It's a rare talent. One I've been cultivating for 60 years. Maya backed against the wall, her hands touching the frames of the paintings. The whispers grew louder, dozens of voices calling for help, for release, for death. "Each painting is a window," Mr. Vance explained, his eyes now glowing with an unnatural light. "And each window is a door. The students' souls flow through the paintings and into me. It's how I stay young, how I stay strong. And you, my dear, you're the key that opens those doors." Maya grabbed a bottle of turpentine from the supply shelf and hurled it at her self-portrait. The liquid splashed across the canvas, and immediately she felt stronger, more solid. The whispers from that painting stopped. "No!" Mr. Vance screamed, lunging toward her. But Maya was already moving, grabbing brushes and palette knives, slashing at the paintings on the walls. With each destroyed canvas, she heard a sigh of relief, a whisper of "thank you." Mr. Vance was aging rapidly, his stolen years catching up with him all at once. His hair turned white, then fell out. His skin wrinkled and sagged. His straight back curved into a painful hunch. "You don't understand," he gasped, his voice now ancient and cracked. "Without the paintings, without the life force, I'll die. I'll crumble to dust." Maya looked at the dozens of ruined canvases, at the freed souls finally able to rest. Then she looked at the monster who had trapped them. "Good," she said, and destroyed the last painting. Mr. Vance screamed once, a sound like tearing paper and cracking bones. Then he crumbled, literally crumbled, into dust that was swept away by the breeze from the open window. Maya left the art room that night and never returned. She threw away her art supplies, her paints, her charcoal. She could still feel the hunger in her fingers, the urge to capture souls on canvas. Because here's the thing about gifts like Maya's, they don't just disappear when their teacher dies. They evolve. And sometimes, late at night, Maya catches herself sketching in the margins of her notebooks. And the faces she draws, they always look so very, very hungry.
The photographer at Westerfield High had always been weird, but on the last day of school, his behavior became genuinely terrifying. Mr. Carlyle had been taking graduation photos for 30 years, and he insisted on getting one last shot of every senior before they left for summer break. What made it creepy was how he kept referring to students who had already graduated. "Stand right there, just like Jennifer did last year," he'd say, positioning someone in front of the trophy case. But Jennifer had graduated 5 years ago. "Hold your diploma like Michael," he'd instruct, though Michael had been gone for a decade. I was waiting in line for my individual photo when I noticed something disturbing about the pictures displayed in his studio. The graduation photos from previous years showed students I recognized, but they were all wrong somehow. The faces looked too old, aged beyond their years, and their eyes held a sadness that seemed to reach through the photographs. "Your turn, mister," Carlyle said, his voice hollow and distant. His camera was ancient, one of those old-fashioned ones with the black cloth hood. As he positioned me in front of the blue backdrop, I noticed his hands were shaking badly, and his skin had a grayish tint. "I've been taking these photos for so long," he mumbled, adjusting the camera. "So many students, so many faces. They all come back, you know. They all come back to visit." The flash went off, blindingly bright, and for a moment I saw something impossible reflected in the lens, not my face, but the face of a girl I didn't recognize, wearing a 1990s graduation gown, her mouth open in a silent scream. When my vision cleared, Mr. Carlyle was staring at the camera with terror in his eyes. "She's in there," he whispered. "They're all in there. Every student I've ever photographed. They're trapped inside the camera, and they're trying to get out." He pulled out a thick photo album and began flipping through pages frantically. "Look at them," he said, showing me graduation photos from decades past. "They're all still here, aging inside the pictures, growing old and dying in paper and chemicals. They can't leave, can't move on. The camera steals their souls, and I've been feeding it for 30 years." The temperature in the studio dropped suddenly, and the lights began to flicker. The graduation photos on the walls started to move, the faces turning to look at us, mouths opening in soundless screams. Mr. Carlyle's hands were now completely gray, and I realized with horror that he was fading, becoming part of his own collection.
"I can't stop," he said, his voice becoming fainter. "The camera won't let me stop. It needs more souls, more graduates. And now it wants you too." The camera began clicking on its own, taking shot after shot without anyone operating it. Each flash revealed more trapped faces in the lens, more students who had never really left Westerfield High. They were all there, suspended between life and death, growing old in photographs that should have captured their youth forever. I ran for the door, but Mr. Carlyle's voice followed me. "You can't leave. The camera has your soul now. You'll be back next year, and the year after that, forever and always." As I escaped into the hallway, I heard the camera clicking frantically behind me, trying to pull me back into its hungry lens. And I knew that somewhere in that studio, my graduation photo was already developing, showing not the 18-year-old I was, but the old, broken person I would become if I ever returned to claim it.
East Valley High had a legend. Every year, one student achieved the impossible: perfect grades, perfect attendance, perfect behavior. The golden student, they called them. And every year, that student would vanish right before graduation, leaving behind only a gleaming trophy in the main display case. This year, it was supposed to be Alex. Alex had worked for this their entire high school career. 4.0 GPA, never missed a day, student council president, captain of the debate team. But in the final semester, something went wrong. His grades started slipping. First, a B+ in AP Calculus. Then a B in Advanced Chemistry. Alex was losing his grip on perfection, and with it, his chance at the Golden Student Award. That's when they found the room. It was during a late night at school, cramming for finals in the library. Alex heard music, beautiful, haunting piano music drifting from somewhere deep in the building. Following the sound, they discovered a hallway that couldn't exist, a corridor that stretched beyond the school's blueprint. At the end of the hallway was a door marked "Study Hall, Perfect Students Only." Inside, Alex found them. 7 teenagers sitting at antique desks, their heads bent over their work. They wore clothes from different eras, one girl in a 1950s poodle skirt, a boy in 1980s preppy attire, another in clothes from the early 2000s. They all looked up when Alex entered, and their smiles were identical: too wide, too perfect, too empty. "Welcome," said the girl in the poodle skirt. Her voice was like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. "We've been waiting for you. You're here about the Golden Student Award, aren't you?" asked the boy from the 80s. "We can help you achieve perfection." Alex wanted to run, but something about the room held them in place. The students were so perfect. Their skin was flawless, their hair immaculate, their clothes pristine despite being decades old. "How?" Alex whispered. The girl from the 2000s laughed, a sound like breaking crystal. "Oh, it's simple. You just have to want it more than anything else. More than friends, more than family, more than your own life." They showed Alex the secret: how to absorb knowledge directly from the source. How to take the intelligence from other students, the dedication from the hardworking, the talent from the gifted. All Alex had to do was touch them and pull. "Try it," urged the 50s girl. "Just a little bit. From someone who won't miss it." The next day, Alex sat next to Danny Kim in biology class. Danny was brilliant but lazy, coasting on natural intelligence. Alex reached over to borrow a pen, and when their fingers touched, Alex felt it, the flow of knowledge, of understanding, of pure intellectual ability. Danny blinked, looking confused. For the rest of class, he struggled with concepts that had once been effortless. Alex, meanwhile, felt clarity like never before. The biology textbook might as well have been written in their native language. It was intoxicating. Alex began hunting through the school, finding students to borrow from. A touch here, a handshake there. Each time, Alex grew smarter, more focused, more perfect. And each time, the victim grew duller, more confused, more hollow. But it wasn't enough. Alex's grades were perfect now, but the other candidates were catching up. There was Jessica with her volunteer work, Marcus with his athletic achievements, Sarah with her artistic talents. The perfect students in the hidden room had a solution for that too. Take everything, they whispered in unison. Take it all. Become the only choice. The plan was elegant in its simplicity. During the school talent show, Alex would shake hands with each of the other candidates, draining them completely. Their intelligence, their talents, their achievements, all of it would flow into Alex. The night of the talent show, Alex stood backstage, watching their competitors perform. Jessica played violin like an angel. Marcus danced with inhuman grace. Sarah painted a portrait so lifelike it seemed to breathe. One by one, Alex approached them. A congratulatory handshake for Jessica. A pat on the back for Marcus. A high five for Sarah. And one by one, they collapsed. Alex felt the power flowing into them, not just their academic abilities, but their memories, their personalities, their very souls. Alex could feel Jessica's love for music, Marcus's dedication to dance, Sarah's passion for art. But more than that, Alex could feel their hopes, their dreams, their fears. Their humanity. The other students were rushed to the hospital. Exhaustion, the doctors said. Overwork. They were alive, but empty. They would spend the rest of their lives in a vegetative state, their minds wiped clean. Alex won the Golden Student Award, of course. Perfect grades, perfect attendance, perfect in every measurable way. At the ceremony, they stood on stage, holding the gleaming trophy, accepting the applause of the crowd. But Alex could see the truth in the reflection on the trophy's surface. They looked like the students in the hidden room now, too perfect, too empty, too wrong. The absorbed souls writhed beneath their skin like snakes in a bag. After the ceremony, Alex found themselves back in the impossible hallway, back in the study hall. The 7 perfect students were still there, still working at their desks. "Congratulations," said the girl in the poodle skirt. "You're one of us now." "The Golden Student Trophy comes with certain obligations," explained the boy from the 80s. "You'll help guide the next candidate. Teach them the ways of perfection." Alex tried to leave, but the door had vanished. The hallway outside stretched endlessly in both directions. They were trapped in perfection, forever. "Don't worry," whispered the girl from the 2000s. "Time moves differently here. You'll barely notice the decades passing. And think of all the perfect students you'll help create." Alex took their place at the 8th desk, pulled out a notebook, and began to write. The words flowed across the page without conscious thought. "Perfection is a prison. Excellence is earned through suffering, not your own, but others. To be the best, you must drain the rest. Welcome to your eternal study hall. And in the main hallway of East Valley High, a new trophy joined the display case. The nameplate read, Alex Morrison Golden Student 2024. But if you looked closely at the trophy, you might notice something unsettling. Sometimes,